everybody. Welcome back to our show. Like this little dangle-dongle here? That's because my volume speaker thing doesn't work. I'm here, and it's Tuesday, and it's July the 2nd. Happy Canada Day, everybody. If you had a good Canada Day, great. If you didn't have a good Canada Day, great. I'm here with my trusty sidekick and co-host, Ed the Head Milewski.
How?
Special Head is here today. We have a good show. You'll notice that I am suffering from what we would call a little inflection of basso. I've been infected with the basso. This is a little souvenir I brought back from London. Some people like to bring crumpets. Some people like to bring honey.
Basso.
I like to bring diseases.
Is that from Spain?
No, this is from London, England.
Basso.
London, England. Basso. Could be Italiano.
Oh.
Anyways, we got our usual lineup of Twisted Sister show here. We're going to start, of course, with the lovely and talented news Merce, Fraser Toms. Don't know why Suzanne's not gracing us with her presence, but and then at 3:15 it will either be Andrew Grieve or Deepak Anand at 3:30, or it'll be Deepak Anand at 3:15 and Andrew Grieve at 3:30. We're not sure which yet. Then at 3:50 Hannah Skingle will be here. Well, she won't be here, she'll be there. There being London, England, where we spoke to her last week about her company, Dragonfly Bio.
Maybe you picked up that bug because of the way you talk with using that accent.
What, my fake English accent? I don't think that's quite accurate. I don't think that's the case.
Is that a British bug?
British bug, yes.
See?
British bug, British bulldog. Cup of tea, pint. Anyway, so yeah, big news in the cannabis space today, actually, that we're going to touch on. That's why we're having Andrew Grieve here. Zenabis is, the Zenabis got $30 million non-dilutive financing from Tilray subsidiary Hyde Park. Tilray. An advance payment for some weed. Basically, they fronted the money. Now they're going to get the weed when it's ready. The opposite of when it was legal, where you got the weed fronted to you, and then you had to pay the dealer the money. Kind of different. I kind of like that, though. Lots of things have changed since marijuana has become legal. Yeah. Foremost among them, one would argue that CBD is now legal in some way, shape, or form almost everywhere.
Yeah, and I understand that this a lot of this stuff was legal way back, right?
Oh yeah, 1952, half the ingredients on the over-the-counter shelf in the pharmacy had cannabis in it.
Really?
Yeah! Jeez. I shit you not. You don't believe, you look like you don't believe me.
There weren't in a Shoppers Drug Mart back in 52, I can tell you.
How do you know?
I was alive.
Oh, you were? Do you remember what was the drugstore then?
No, I didn't say I remember. I said I was alive.
So if you can't remember what there was, how can you remember what there wasn't?
I was looking around.
Were you smoking weed at 1952? How old would you have been in 52?
One.
One? Really?
1 year old.
So you don't remember anything?
I remember everything.
You just said you did.
I can tell you this, okay? It was kind of boring. Didn't really walk around very much.
You just were like...
I knew a couple words. Vocabulary was a little...
Were you one of those babies that was a real pain in the ass?
No.
You were a delightful baby?
I was sort of a very, very advanced baby.
An advanced baby?
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
how'd you manage that?
Very precocious, I must say.
Precocious?
Yeah. For instance,
you remember that?
I never, I never spilt my milk.
Oh, fastidious.
Yeah. I was going to say
baby.
Formula, but I never had formula. I had the real stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, here's News Merce, Fraser Toms with the cannabis news of the day.
Hello everyone, here's what's making headlines in the cannabis world today. 1933 Industries announced its third quarter financial results for the 3 and 9 months ended April 30th, 2019. TGIF net loss was reportedly $7.3 million or 3 cents a share. The company's Q3 revenue was $4.6 million, with cash and cash equivalents at the end of the period being $14.7 million. Liberty Health Sciences, Inc. announced its fourth quarter financial results for the year ended February 28, 2019. LHS's net loss was reportedly $22.3 million or 7 cents a share. The company's 2019 revenue was $10 million, with cash and cash equivalents at the end of the period being $13.3 million. Khiron Life Sciences Corp applauds the European Union and Mercosur trade agreement announced between the European Union and Mercosur, the Latin American trading bloc made up of Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. Khiron is active among Mercosur jurisdictions with the recently completed acquisition of Netagrowth International, a cannabis company based in Uruguay. The trade deal between the European Union and Mercosur, announced on June 28, 2019 at the G20 summit in Japan, establishes a trade framework for goods and services including pharma and medical products covering nearly 780 million consumers. This agreement makes it the largest in the world in terms of population and with an estimated trade in goods of 88 billion euros. Aleafia Health Inc. has received multiple export permits from Health Canada, which allow the company to begin its first international cannabis product shipment. The company expects to ship its branded medical cannabis oils in the next month, which will be distributed by Australian licensed producer Canna Pacific Limited. Aleafia Health owns a 10% equity stake in Canna Pacific. Emerald Health Therapeutics Inc. has introduced a cannabis-free herbal and botanical endocannabinoid-supporting health supplement product line in Canada. Emerald's endo products, which do not contain cannabis or its derivatives, aim to support the endocannabinoid system to help maintain equilibrium in the body and are already available in over 200 natural health food stores across Canada. These products feature Phytocan Complex, a proprietary formulation consisting of non-psychoactive plant-based bioactive compounds that support the body's endocannabinoid system. Flower One Holdings Inc. announced that it has entered into a debt financing agreement with RB Loan Portfolio 2 for up to $30 million. The agreement is for a 2-year term at a rate of LIBOR plus 8%, with interest-only payments for the term of the agreement. The company has done an initial advance of $20 million US and issued 1.14 million warrants with a strike price of $3.46 Canadian and 1.14 million warrants with a strike price of $4.03 Canadian. The company will use the proceeds for the advance to further invest in its 400,000 square foot greenhouse. James E. Wagner Cultivation Corporation announced that on June 28, 2019, it received an approval of license amendment from Health Canada, permitting it to grow cannabis in additional flowering rooms at the corporation's flagship facility, JWC2. The newly approved flowering rooms will add approximately 11,000 square feet, resulting in a total of nearly 22,000 square feet of flowering space at JWC2. And that's your cannabis news for today, folks.
Yeah.
There's some news.
There's some big news for you. Actually, you notice that the caliber of the news tends to tone down a bit. So the big standout news of the day, obviously, is Zenabis.
Yes.
$30 million deal. That's incredible.
That's incredible.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick look at what that did for their stock. Do you remember the symbol? Better not be Zen.
Better not be.
Because that would be a Zena.
No,
Zenabis Global.
Zenabis?
$1.97, up 5% on the day. There's our chart. And you can see that. Let's go down to the 5-day look. And yeah, it looks like that had quite an effect on the share price. It had been trending lower. Obviously, there was some advanced build-up in expectation of this deal, judging by this this little phase in here. You can see that it's not like nobody knew this thing was going to happen, but yeah, $30 million. I guess you consider that in the context of a pre-sale, because that's pretty much what it is. $30 million worth of weed pre-sale, paid in advance. Thank you very much.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's what it is.
How do you know that?
Because I read the press release, Edward.
Oh.
And then I listened to Fraser read the press release, so I've heard it twice now. Why don't you know that? That's what I want to know.
I never read the press release.
Are you in your own little bubble right now? Did you smoke any weed today?
No.
No?
No. Did I on the weekend?
Yeah. Little bit. Well, I cut down one of my plants this weekend.
I thought you said you were too busy to do anything.
Well, I was too sick to do anything.
But you were too sick to cut down the plant.
Well, I did that early on Saturday morning. And then I started feeling like, oh, this cold is only going to get worse. I better go lay down now. But I did get a good trim on it. So we got one plant coming that we'll be sampling later this week.
Okay.
The other 3 I didn't have a chance to cut down. And Two of them look like they're not quite ready yet, so I'm going to do all that on Friday. But I was looking at, let's take a look at those plants here while we're on the subject.
I think the viewing public want to see the garden.
See the garden. I had the garden. Where'd the garden go? Just had it, but what the hell? Yeah, so the garden is at, that's so odd, Arlo.net gear. Let's go here again. You want to see the garden. This will be the garden, obviously looking like it's about to be harvested.
Right.
Ta-da. Oops, that's a little too much of a close-up. So this was at 9 o'clock this morning.
Okay.
But, oops, where the hell? That's too much of a close-up. We want to get some. But look at those buds, eh? They are so fat and huge. Kind of remind me of something. Donkey appendages. Donkey appendages.
Bud. Buds.
Let's look at that in large screen now.
Yeah.
Again.
Wow.
Look at those.
Now, can you talk about the quality at this stage, or is it too early?
Well, I could talk about the quality all I want, but I'd be talking through my ass because I haven't smoked any yet.
Right.
We haven't even tested it yet, but we will be testing this marijuana next week with our what is it, spectral analysis thingamabob. Excuse me.
You've got some high-end equipment here that's ready to move in and take over.
Nuclear magnetic resonance testing device.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. With a spectral analyzer chromatography column.
Is that an option?
It's one of the options.
Yeah. Can you get it? Is there other options you didn't cough up?
There's other options that I can't even say.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with my head this congested, I can't really think about anything. Like, what was your name again?
Ed. So here we are. We've covered the news.
We have. The news has been covered 6 ways till Sunday.
Tilray's not reacted positively to that announcement. Down $2.
Down $2. They took the $2 off of their share price and they went and put 10% of it onto Zenabis' share price.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's a $30 million spend for Tilray. Now, Tilray had $450 million loaded into the coffer back in 2018 in a rather egregiously priced debt offering for the lenders.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable that. So it'll be interesting to see. We should have the lenders on the show for an interview and say, hey, how do you feel about your deal now?
Yeah.
Mind you, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that Tilray could knock one out of the park and actually produces several $1 billion worth of revenue in a year.
Yeah, a lot of. So you know what? We had big action in the space. The space seems to be quieter. Of course, you've pointed out several times the doldrums of summer, and it's officially summer, isn't it? It's been officially summer now for at least 10, 11 days.
I know, it's insane. So that means, that days are already getting shorter.
That's correct, yeah.
So
I've noticed
winter's coming.
About 2 minutes a day. That's how it switches.
2 minutes a day?
Something like that.
Are you timing it?
No, if you look up the sunset today, then look it up tomorrow, it's going to be probably a minute different, and then you take that. There's also a minute in the morning that's different. Rises a little later.
Minute by minute by minute by minute, I keep holding on. Doobie Brothers, 1970.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Anyways, what else? Oh, Sidewalk Labs had their big open house here in Toronto. If you're a Toronto resident, you were invited to go. Now, Sidewalk Labs is interesting and becoming somewhat controversial because Google owns Sidewalk Labs, and Sidewalk Labs is therefore a subsidiary of Google, and they've been given 7 acres of prime waterfront to deliver this Google, what we are now referring to in Toronto as Googleville. And it's going to be the most wired section of the city, and it's going to have all these things like building envelopes and jackets. So that you
like a virtual
city.
City, but what kind of a city? A virtual city.
City within a city. Anyway, so that was
Wow.
a year ago. Now they've submitted this new 1,500-page plan, and they're expanding to up to 188 acres of prime waterfront. And so I think they should just change the name from Toronto to Google and be done with it.
Googleonia.
Googleville. Googleton. Google. How about Distrito Federal de Google? DFG.
Distrito?
Distrito. Or we could call it.
Yeah, and you'll be able to. There'll be all the cars will be driverless, probably, right?
So if you get flattened by somebody in a car, it won't be the driver's fault. It'll be the car's fault. Actually, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if vehicular manslaughter will become a thing of the past, because it's like, that car screwed up. Just destroy it. It has no rights. It's a car.
Yeah, I don't know how all this is going to work out, but I don't think anybody else knows either.
No, thank God, nobody does.
Okay.
And as, who was it, the famous person said, it's all bullshit? George Tafalas.
Yeah. Tafala.
Talks a lot.
Talks a lot?
George doesn't talk to me.
No.
Anyways, here's Deepak Anand, the co-founder of Materia Ventures. I'm joined now by Deepak Anand. He is the founder and CEO of Materia Ventures. Deepak, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Deepak, I'm going to jump to a conclusion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that Materia Ventures is the culmination of your past 5 years active in the regulatory space in cannabis globally.
It very much is, James, yes.
Okay, so what does Materia do specifically?
We deal with the supply and distribution of CBD and medical cannabis-based products, predominantly in Europe.
Okay, as a vertically integrated from commodity to CPG provider, or do you occupy some middle range in a horizontal value chain?
No, absolutely. We do everything from sort of post-cultivation all the way up until sales to either patients or consumers.
Okay, and where do you distribute these products now?
So we're involved in the Danish market in a big way, as well as sort of in the UK market. We're going to be launching our products very soon into these two markets predominantly.
Mm-hmm. Are these medically focused products or wellness products that don't need a prescription?
Both of them. So, I mean, for me, coming from Canada, where we regulate CBD very differently than they do in Europe, that opened up a massive opportunity for us to be able to get into this space. So we're targeting both markets, medical as well as CBD. Unfortunately, in Europe, what's happening today is there seems to be more companies than patients as far as the medical cannabis space is concerned. So we're looking to expand that market out. Mm-hmm. Germany, by far, is the leading market in Europe for where medical cannabis is prevalent in any way. The UK is building out. It's slow. There's a number of sort of regulatory challenges to overcome, and before that, political challenges to overcome in this country. But the CBD opportunities are tremendous. It's regulated as a novel food here, which allows you to sell products in grocery stores and supermarket chains and pharmacies over the counter, which is a tremendous opportunity. And the one thing that we haven't seen, like the U.S., is some very established brands on the CBD side to be able to take advantage of that market. It's where the U.S. was on the CBD side 7 years ago, where there was a whole bunch of players in the market, but it was very unregulated. You couldn't really rely on a lot of brands. There were really no brands. And so for us, that created a massive opportunity. Mm-hmm.
In the UK, I've seen that there's no shortage of CBD products on the shelves of health food stores, of novelty stores. It's everywhere. Is this market quickly becoming saturated with supply way in excess of demand?
So based on where things currently stand, yes. However, this coming Thursday, you're going to see some changes that come up as a result of a report that we're releasing. I'm on the board of something called the Center for Medical Cannabis at CMC, and on Thursday we release a report on CBD that looks at all of the products that are on the market, particularly in the UK, talking about sort of the unregulatedness, the sort of, the unsafeness, in those products. And I think that is going to force the regulator here and across Europe to start to relook at how CBD is being regulated. It's a bit of the Wild West situation. It's not going to be to the level that the US FDA is currently post the Farm Bill, but certainly it's going to change things up in terms of the way products are distributed. I think you're going to see a scaling back of this Wild West attitude here where, anything goes. You may be consuming CBD that's got THC in it. You may be consuming snake oil and you have no idea what you're putting in. Just because a label says 100 milligrams of CBD, that doesn't necessarily mean what you're getting. So there may be oversupply of unregulated product today, but there's an absolute demand for safe, tested, regulated supply of products, and that's where we come in.
Okay, so in China, who produces half the world's hemp currently, I can buy from a wholesaler literally tons of 99.99% organically produced CBD isolate, which at a price, which I'm not going to talk about now because it's fluctuating daily, but at a price that makes me very suspicious of the ability of any European or North American-based producer of CBD to do so at a rate that can compete with the Chinese supply. Now, obviously, the import and export barriers are going to prevent that from happening for the time being, but how soon until free trade mentality causes us to have to welcome importation and exportation of cannabinoids in concentrated form?
Fairly soon. In fact, in the UK, there was a company that I work very closely with that is importing CBD isolate from China and distributing it here under GMP. And they have full EU GMP licensing, so it's happening sooner than you would expect. Right. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the price point makes a lot of sense. I think the challenge here is there's not many companies that have the licensing and the ability to be able to do this in a regulated fashion. And I think companies that are being set up now to cater to that are the ones that are going to be successful in the long term. But I mean, the Chinese hemp is here, and it's going to span across the globe. The regulatory considerations aside, this is starting to happen already.
Right. So the materia is, where does it source its cannabinoids?
So we've got a whole bunch of sort of suppliers around the world. We've looked at cannabis as a commodity, James. I've had the opportunity to be fortunately involved with a number of different countries, whether it be Lesotho, whether it be Macedonia, whether it be Thailand, whether it be Cyprus, Malta, and the list is endless. So I've seen a number of sort of cultivation facilities, a number of governments looking at this, and so we source our biomass from a variety of these countries. We're looking at Canada certainly for the supply now. It's sort of the best product from a quality perspective available today. But we're looking at importing CBD from China. We're looking at bringing THC in from Colombia, and there's no reason why that shouldn't happen.
Right. So do you think that the de-prohibition federally of THC is the catalyst that the world is waiting for before THC finds its way into the medical supply chain as much as CBD does?
I think we're still some time away from that happening. I think there's a very cautious approach on dealing with this for a reason that I'm not so certain why. I mean, we've seen in Canada now, since October 17th at least, where we've had a legal program, the sky's not fallen as far as THC is concerned, and I'm pretty sure we'll see the same thing with edibles coming online soon. I don't think THC is going to be as readily available around the world as CBD is today, but we're certainly moving in that direction. I think we're definitely a few years away from THC being wildly available, but we're making inroads in that direction.
Mm-hmm. So from where you sit as a guy who spent a lot of time traveling to all these countries and probably has a pretty good finger on the pulse of where regulation is at in each one, how soon is it until we're at a more or less globalized state of the entire market?
Very soon. I think in the next 5 to 7 years we'll definitely see global movements. I think what Luxembourg and Malta particularly are doing at a European level is very interesting. I think you will see Luxembourg legalize recreational cannabis in the next couple of years, and people don't appreciate that as much as they should, perhaps, because Luxembourg's a tiny little country. But what most people, particularly in North America, don't realize is Europe is really one market. As soon as one country opens up its borders, I mean, Luxembourg is neighboring to a variety of other countries where you drive in and out of Luxembourg like you're getting in and out from another city, and that changes the conversation at a European level. So as soon as 1 or 2 countries start to legalize cannabis for recreational adult use purposes, that changes the gamut as far as Europe is concerned, and that gets the world really looking at this. I think Asia is already moving in that direction. We've seen Thailand now come out. India will be not too far behind, and once those markets are up and running, China's already said they're not happy with the U.S. dominating the hemp play, as you kind of alluded to earlier. So we're seeing this happen. It's a matter of 5 to 7 years before we see full, sort of global movement towards this. The countries I'm hesitant about, though, are certainly the Middle East. I don't know what's going to happen there. It's been this taboo substance for a very long time. I don't know if we'll see a seismic shift there anytime soon.
Right. So Materia is, you recently closed a Series A round. Congratulations. What was the valuation on that, and what's your go public strategy?
Thank you. Yeah, we closed, just closing $6 million, currently at a $33 million valuation pre-money. The go public strategy, we're going to try and stay private for as long as possible. We've had we've been fortunate to be able to, get a lot of interest. We've oversubscribed in all of our rounds, so it's been very interesting from that perspective. We're going to try and stay private for as long as we possibly can.
Okay, great. Let's leave it there for now. Deepak, as usual, an interesting conversation. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
and I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really.
Recreational cannabis is here. It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
Just wouldn't be Midas Letter if we didn't at least have a bit of a conversation about the price of gold, eh, Edward?
It's the catch-all, isn't it? Like, gold looked like it was going to fall apart on Friday.
Yeah.
And yesterday. Yeah. But yesterday was a Canadian holiday. And today it's up almost $30 an ounce. But like just enough to make you the guys that panicked out yesterday feeling like, what the fuck? And now, moving up, tomorrow they'll buy it back.
So did Trump say something silly to make everybody jump back?
All it says here, gold prices jump on flight to safety amid trade global growth jitters. Really? Global growth. That would be, the...
What growth jitters? I don't know of anybody having any jitters about growth. Everybody I know either wants to grow taller or grow skinnier.
I've just sent you an article that you can read at your leisure when you're recovering from your
pestilence
and your
okay, let's take a look at the cannabis indexes now, because that's the reason we're here.
Yep.
Look at the large cap is now well below 10,000 at 9,956. There's going to be a lot of companies that fall off of this index. Let's just go take a look at the actual index page.
Wow.
And see look at that. A sea of red among the top 10. Free is down to 901. Organogram's down to 822. CanTrust is down to 652. Like, we have given up some serious ground here.
Some of these things. 650 on CanTrust. Is that a echo in here or what?
Yeah.
Look at it. Afria flirting with a $9 barrier.
Yeah.
Chronos back to almost under 20.
Yeah. I know, but Chronos has held up really well, considering.
Wow.
Considering it's still got 2-point-some odd billion in the bank. Interestingly, none of the indexes, the ones that are up are just barely up. But let's go see what the CSE index is showing us, because this is actually a bit of a large cap index sometimes. All right.
Only
Big
down.
Losers.
Yeah.
Quadron not there. Asia Cannabis down. That's not relevant. M Jardine down to $1.56. Boy, that one's lost a lot of ground. Crop Infrastructure down to 20 cents, despite all the pumpity-dumpity going on in that one. Orchid Ventures. Look at that one. Don't even know. I don't think we've ever had these guys in. But yeah, Leviathan down 41. Everything's down. See red. Let's see what's up on the CSE. Belgravia, 3 center, just shell. Dynamed up 17.89 to $1.45, but that's down significantly from where they started. Look at that. Nothing's really up impressively today that I can see. It's just another sideways day in a sideways summer.
It's almost like a one-way street.
It's a one-way street. Anyways, I talked to Hannah Kringle from Dragonfly Biotech in London, and let's take a look at that.
Hannah Skingle joins me now. She's the Chief Operating Officer of Dragonfly Biosciences. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Hannah, we're at the Cannabis Europa show in London, United Kingdom, and you have been very busy, I've noticed. And
yes.
So I'm wondering, what does Dragonfly Biosciences do?
So we are a seed-to-shelf CBD company, organically grown. We cultivate in Bulgaria, extract in Romania, formulate back in Bulgaria under EU GMP, and then we distribute all over Europe, but we've really predominantly been focusing the brand element in the UK as kind of our test run. Gone really successfully. We were the first CBD product to go into Boots. We also are in Tesco and Sainsbury's, which cover 45% of the UK supermarket share. Right. We're in premium brands such as Harrods, but this is just kind of one side of our business. The other part is the wholesale element, where we do white labeling and bulk sales to European clients.
And this is just CBD products?
Just CBD for now, yes.
Okay, and so are you a publicly traded entity?
No, that's 2020, I would imagine.
Oh, okay, great. So the CBD market seems like it's already way ahead of even where Canada is in terms of the availability of it. I've been to all of these stores. They've all got large CBD displays with lots of different variety. What is the state of the market? I mean, it seems like there's almost too much supply relative to demand.
I think there's a lack of understanding. There's a lot of companies that have entered into the market that know about CBD. We've seen North America grow. We understand it from that kind of perspective, but actually your day-to-day kind of UK citizen might not know. I mean, we've definitely seen an increase over the last 3 years. I would say that 1 in 10 people had even heard of CBD about 3 years ago. Last year it was about 1 in 5. This year I'm thinking around 1 in 3. But it's not that kind of full understanding. It's just, oh, I've heard of it. My friend told me about that. So I think that we're poised to be in a great position for when people start understanding it more. But in order for that to happen, we need regulators to change the regulation, enable us to actually market our products better, and also just be able to educate like pharmacists, technicians, etc., so that people can actually understand it that way.
It seems the CBD market is so far removed from the actual cannabis market in the UK and in Europe because CBD has suddenly become mainstream, whereas THC is still very much taboo, especially in the context of the UK system, where there's only a handful of clients who can get, or rather patients who can get access to THC-based drugs. What's the holdup? What's the bottleneck, and how is it going to change?
I think as a CBD company, we've had to detach ourselves away from the medical. With medical, we know it's going slowly, and that was actually a strategic decision from Dragonfly. We've done everything to EU GMP standards so that when the medical market actually does open up for CBD as well, we are poised to enter into that. But what we've had to do is actually create the food supplement element of CBD, and that's what it's categorized as in Europe, and then remove ourselves away from the medical side, because otherwise it actually places restrictions on us to sell the product. I think over time, once certain companies and government and regulators have all kind of come together, and there's not just mass press releases about kind of the medical market doing X, Y, and Z, and very little patients getting any access. Once that happens, then we can kind of move in. I mean, how it's going to get there, it's going to take a long time. The politicians seem to want to observe the Canadian market before they act, which could be quite long-winded and slow.
Yes.
So I hope not, but that's kind of the way it's going at the minute.
Right, interesting. So they're wait and see on Canada. Canada's, struggling with its own regulations. There's new versions coming out all the time. So then the decision to stay strictly with CBD, does it seem to you that there will be any changes in the access to CBD for people in the UK? And how will that be affected by, for example, if this Brexit thing happens? Will you be able to sell in Europe?
Yes, we built our company on Brexit, firstly. We started in 2017. We were well aware that it was going to happen or could. And so all of our assets are actually outside of the UK, Bulgaria and Romania, all EU countries. It's just simply our headquarters here. So we are in a position to continue business. In terms of CBD companies, very few CBD companies actually extract or formulate in the UK. So if there are any tariffs that come in place, it will be the same on everybody, and it will be a commercial entity's decision whether they pass that cost on to the consumer or absorb it themselves. But everyone will kind of be in the same position for that.
Is there any impetus towards recreational cannabis consumption in Europe or in the UK?
I think there definitely is by certain members of society, absolutely. Do I think that we need to walk before we can run? Yes. I think that going with a kind of spearhead of talking about recreational and not really defining what recreational is, like is recreational just a different vice that you can consume CBD in, or does it have to contain THC? And establishing that before we kind of approach the recreational space, as I think it will definitely scare regulators.
You bet.
Yeah.
All right. From your perspective at this point, is Europe an easier place and moving forward more quickly and more sort of openly than the UK, or do you think they're both sort of bogged down?
I actually think the UK is one of the most fast-moving, which is quite a sad reality. We have in the UK, we have the most engagement from local authority and also kind of EU member state authority. And they actually want to hear about how we think we can reform CBD policy and the regulation, whereas I know in other EU member states that's a lot more closed. I think it's challenging as well because CBD is currently regulated under food or under medicine, and therefore it kind of needs its own area. I think cannabis in general needs its own kind of regulatory committee in order to kind of have a blanket understanding and be able to move more freely. I think each country has their own agenda, and there's definitely politicians fighting both causes in every country. So we'll see.
You bet. All right, Hannah, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks very much for your participation.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. How about Hannah?
Hannah.
Ed, what other names do you know are used for cannabis?
Pot.
Pot, that's pretty...
Mary Jane.
Do you know who came up with the term sticky icky?
Weed. No.
Weed.
No, sticky icky.
Sticky icky, no.
Never heard of sticky icky.
You never heard of sticky icky?
Now, what is sticky icky?
The hell's the matter with you, boy?
What's sticky icky?
Sticky icky?
Yeah.
It's a song. Sticky icky icky. Snoop Dogg song?
Sticky icky?
Sticky icky. Sticky icky. Instead of Ed the Head, we could call you Sticky Icky. No, you've...
Kawasaki.
Gumbawa. What was it Tarzan used to say to make the tigers run in the opposite direction?
Ungawa.
Ungawa! Boy, probably half the people watching this don't even remember that Tarzan.
Oh, yeah. Oh!
But broccoli, here's some of the other names according to the Grow Up. Sticky Icky, broccoli, chronic, hydro.
I can see where they call it broccoli.
Broccoli makes sense. Chiba. Chiba is a Spanish term for a female goat.
Yeah, come back, little Chiba.
Got a little Chiba in you? Headies. You ever heard that? No, these are all some names. These are some names that I've never heard of. Loud.
Loud.
Have you ever heard it called loud? No, me either.
You know what they used to call louds? the little things they used to you jam in someone's cigarette without, unbeknownst to them, they light it and the thing explodes.
Oh, I remember those.
Louds.
My brother used to love to play those tricks on me, actually, in particular.
Yeah.
He'd stick them in my and they make quite a bang. They scare the bejesus out of you, and they blow the end of your cigarette to smithereens.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow, he's right.
Okay. So what else? What other names? Icky Sticky.
Icky Sticky.
I like to smoke a number.
Stink.
Stinky.
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 Like it. You got any stinky? We used to call it, what else? We used to call it Tortuga.
Tortuga?
Tortuga. And that was just a code name because it was Spanish for turtle. And so if you'd say Tortuga, what the but that was, remember, this is back when you used to have to hide to smoke marijuana. And you used to not be able to have conversations about it on the phone. I remember friends of mine going, Jesus, man, not on the phone, man. Now it's like, yes, this is George from Canopy. I'd like to order 15 tons of extract, please.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
No, it's
times have changed.
Amazing. Yeah, pot. You have to.
I know, and soon we're going to have shatter in Ontario, in Canada. Shatter.
Well, you can get it now.
No.
At the dispensary.
Well.
That's still open.
We're only supposed to be patronizing legal places, Ed. Since we're law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, what's his name? Howard. He liked to shatter.
You like to shower?
Shatter. He liked to shatter in the shower. He liked to have some shatter in the shower.
I watched a YouTube video of some kids that were smoking like 32 grams of shatter in a single go.
And then what happened?
Well, they basically started coughing their faces off and had to turn off the camera because they couldn't speak.
Another plan.
Yeah, it was quite funny. So at this point, like, let's take a look at. I want to go back to our indexes and talk about the biggest of the big here, because
that would be Canopy.
Well, Canopy's obviously the leader in that category, and close on its heels is always Aurora and Tilray. But it's like the pecking order hasn't really changed. Like if we were to order these in order of market cap. Well, actually, let's see. If we have to order market cap. So there it is by market cap. Weed is number 1. Aurora is number 2.
Kronos?
Kronos is number 3. That used to be Afria. And now Curaleaf, which didn't exist before, is now number 4.
What used to be Afria?
Afria used to be number 3.
Which was
what?
What's number 3? Is number 3 the name of a company?
Oh, the third biggest by market cap.
Whoa! I thought you said Afria is now number 3. I thought.
You didn't see that press release. You been smoking some crack at lunch yet?
No.
Good.
No. Keep it clean.
Keeping it clean. But look at CanTrust. Like that thing's cut in half. Let's take a look at that chart because that's a sorry sight.
I know some people that are heavily involved in that one.
Really? Heavily involved in what? Selling it?
I'm heavily involved in, picking up loose paper, and they can pick up all they want.
Well, because there's no shortage of sellers. Look at that, eh?
Unbelievable.
Like this is back to where it was in January.
Yeah.
Before, at the end of the last correction, at the beginning of the last jump.
Down at the 6.5 level.
Yeah.
Well, look. Yeah, I mean, look. And there's some, and I notice on a lot of these charts, there's points of resistance, support going down. If those numbers get breached, not usually a good thing.
No, Katie, bar the door.
See, there's support there, right here.
Where? Here?
Like, I mean, look, if you look at that chart, it's been down here. It rallied sharply, came back down, rallied sharply, came back down.
Rallied sharply, came back down, rallied sharply, came
and
back
so
down.
on, and so forth.
She told 2 people.
And 2 more, and 2 more.
All right, let's get out of here. This is full screen. We don't want that. Let's go away. Go away. Run away. Run away. Here we go. So, yeah, trust. T-God. Look at T-God's groveling down there in the muck. Organogram, though, that's the big surprise to me. I thought that thing was taking off and never coming back. Touched a high of 1042. Boy, but that's, the summer, though, if you look at the indexes,
Right.
like it's the same every summer, or at least it has been.
But, 10 years ago wasn't this like this because there wasn't even a marijuana stock back then.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's true.
Good
So
point.
here's the large cap index, but so there's...
Well, there's all our, we can't see it because of our faces are there. Oh, now we can.
Let's go look at the 5-year look on the large cap chart. Okay, so basically,
Wow.
same thing. Always the bump in January. Always the beginning of the sell-off in the summer. Like it happened late in 2018. But that's interesting. And then it rallied throughout the end and then crashed. But, yeah.
What do you see when you look at that chart?
I see an exploding industry. That's anything that puts on so much market cap is going to be characterized by sharp sell-offs as people take profits, followed by dramatic buy-ins as sector-wide catalysts inspire investors to get back in the game. So investors are typically seem to be largely living in a tiny little temporal bubble. It's like what happened last week and where it's going next week. That's the extent of their ability to sort of evaluate the market. They don't think in terms of, well, I'm going to buy this in October, and I believe it's going to 10x itself in about 5 years, so I'm going to sit on it, and I don't care what happens in between.
Right. Well,
you don't see any of that anymore.
Yeah, it's look.
Look. Let's see gold now again. Let's talk about gold a bit more because.
Well, it's up $27 an ounce today. At least in the front month is up $27.
So that's it's all over the map. What's going on there?
Well, you know what? We're in an area. We're in an area that's marked by not a lot of resistance and not a lot of support. Like we've broken through that base, that we broke out of that base, that 7-year base, and we've only had one sort of run up into that 16, 17, 1800, and one run down. So this is really.
Can we get a chart up here?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so you were saying.
There we go. Look at this. Now, but we need a bigger chart. We need a 5-year chart.
You want a 5-year chart? I'll give you a 5-year chart.
Can you do it just like that?
Look at that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
drive.
there you go. So there. So look.
No, use the mouse pad.
Right here?
Yeah.
How do I do it?
There we go. Look. It's happening.
There's the big resistance. More resistance.
So resistance is at what?
1350.
Oh, over here.
Look at it. It can't go through. Can't go through. Can't go through. Can't go through. And then it can go through. And if you look, well, back in here, it was only up in here for a brief period. So we're really in an area where it's going to be, you're going to be able to push on a blow on this, and it's going to move like crazy.
Really?
Yeah, because there's no history up here.
Right.
See?
So you think it's going to blow on it?
Watch.
Nothing yet.
You know what? We're going back to. I'm pretty sure we're going to see 1600 within 6 to 9. Well, I'm not predicting.
Okay, so now what do you think about the cannabis market generally?
Well, it's a viable business. It's there, but lots of competition.
Yeah.
And then as the competition comes in and you don't get those explosive price movements, people start to say, well, let's take a look at what's really going on here. And they start looking at fundamentals. The longer this goes on, like time goes on, like time, like tomorrow, next day,
passages.
we're gonna see more careful analysis of this sector, I think. And like some things they're giving them away, but other things they're like these stocks are still expensive.
Yeah, I was reading a piece in the The Guardian, was it the Guardian? No, it wasn't the Guardian.
The Guardian,
it was a UK paper that was basically saying, oh, here it is. Let's put this piece up here and get a look at that headline. Cannabis has great medical potential, but don't fall for the CBD scam. And this guy's point is that, you know, the headline makes it sound like CBD is a scam. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, I don't know what that means. Don't fall for the CBD scam. I don't know what that means.
His only points in the article that you could possibly, you know, relate to that headline are that some of the labels don't contain as much CBD as they say they do. And so, I mean, this is the one thing that really burns my ass, Edward, about these journalists who obviously don't have any relationship to cannabis, seize upon, you know, one element. Some labels don't contain the right amount of cannabis and call the entire industry a scam. I mean, that's
grasping at straws, if you ask me.
Grasping at straws.
Pretty soon you won't be able to get any straws.
Because they'll be all taken.
No more plastic straws allowed.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that's so? What do we replace them with?
Paper straws.
Paper straws.
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but I think KFC announced today, no more plastic straws, no more plastic bags. You know, like. The world is, I'm telling you, jumping on this, hey, let's clean her up. You know, by the way, you know, it's kind of funny because they talk about this big floating island in the Pacific that's all plastic.
Oh, yeah.
You know where that plastic comes from? Virtually all of it. A few countries in Asia.
Really?
Yeah, that's just saying.
We have another guest on now, just standing by that we talked to last week from Colombia, Juan Diego Alvarez is coming up now, and here's what we had to say.
Khiron Life Sciences Corp. is a Latin American-based pharmaceutical company that develops and commercializes medical cannabis products. Khiron has core operations in Colombia and is fully licensed in the country for the cultivation, production, domestic distribution, and international export of both THC and CBD medical cannabis. In May 2018, Khiron listed on the TSX Venture, becoming one of the first Colombian-based medical cannabis companies to trade on any exchange globally. Khiron Life Sciences Corp. is listed on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol KHRN.
I'm joined now by Juan Diego Alvarez. He's Khiron Life Sciences Regulatory Vice President. Juan Diego, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here and be able to speak about regulatory issues with you.
Sure. Okay, Juan, let's start with a discussion about the rules in Colombia are it's hard for us in Canada and the United States and Europe to understand exactly what is the status of the regulations in Colombia right now as it pertains to both medical as well as recreational cannabis.
Well, the regulation in Colombia is concentrated only on the medical side. So what we have, like what has happened is a development in the last 3 years, basically, in which the government enacted a law, then a decree and some resolutions in which the whole chain of production of medical cannabis until the final product was completely regulated in the country. However, I will also mention that what the government did was also to create what is called non-psychoactive cannabis, and it's everything that is in certain way pure CBD. And in that sense, that is not a subject of control, and therefore we can manufacture and have different type of products that are not that have no psychoactive effect. That's why, for example, Khiron has a wellness line of products that is called Quida, cosmeceutical products that we are commercializing in the country for the last 6 to 7 months.
Okay, so CBD then is legal for sale at the retail level right now in stores in Colombia?
It's legal in cosmetic products. We are still waiting for the final regulation for nutritional supplements and food and beverages. Those category of products require additional regulation from INVIMA, which is our sanitary agency. But for cosmetics, CBD it's an ingredient already permitted in the country.
Okay, so the Quita products are currently for sale in Colombia everywhere with CBD as the active ingredient or one of the active ingredients?
Exactly. It's one of the active ingredients. We have developed a technology called CBDerm for these products, and we are commercializing the products in different chains of distribution and different retail stores.
Sure. Okay, now tell me about the ability to export Quita products to the rest of Latin America. What is the condition of the rules in each of the countries that you would export Quita products to?
Well, that's a complex question, I will say, because as you know, exporting depends from the market in which you are manufacturing and producing the product and the market in which you intend to import the product. So what we have been developing for the last months is we have a regulatory team in each of the countries in the region. We have our regulatory person in Mexico, in Peru, in Uruguay, in Brazil, and Chile. And we are working with them in the specific permits that we will require to be able to commercialize those products. It depends in each country. I will say, for example, that in Peru, for example, we have a supranational regulation because we have a free trade zone between Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, and therefore we need to homologate the registries or the permits that we have in Colombia. That is a quite simple process, I would say, not as complex as in other regulations. In Chile, for example, we will need to adjust some of the formulations and the ingredients because in Chile you require previous review of the products before commercialization. So we are in that process, and that's kind of the case. It's a case-by-case basis, but we hope that for next year we will have the Quita products in the region.
Sure. How about Mexico, which is a pretty substantial market? What's the situation there?
Mexico, it's an interesting market because they passed a law around a year and a half ago in which they created or authorized the medical use of cannabis and gave COFEPRIS, which is the sanitary agency, the capacity to recategorize or define what was not psychoactive and therefore was not a controlled substance. And in that sense, they created the medical market and what we can call also the CBD market. COFEPRIS enacted some guidelines in November of last year, but the new government revoked these guidelines in February. So right now what we have in Mexico is a new government that is defining a new regulatory framework, new guidelines and new resolutions that will define the commercialization of these products. But what is also clear is that we have a legal framework that already created the possibility of developing medical products and at the same time CBD products with no restriction of use.
Mm-hmm. All right, that sounds good. Now, Europe is also opening up as a market for Khiron, and I'm curious as to what is the situation with regulations in terms of exporting, say, Quita products to, say, Germany and the rest of Europe.
Well, the situation in Europe is interesting because they have two different markets for cannabis and hemp. That's kind of the first topic that I will remark. Hemp is defined, or better to explain, the European Parliament defined what is called like a catalog of strains or varieties that can be defined as hemp. So you can only cultivate as hemp the strains that are in this catalog. And those strains in that catalog are strains with less than 0.2% of THC. if those strains have less than 0.2 of THC, are categorized or defined as hemp, and you can develop different type of products. So I'm gonna give you some examples. In UK, you don't need a market authorizations to commercialize products as long as you can demonstrate that they come from these hemp strains. In Italy, you can commercialize these products as long as you demonstrate that they come from the catalog and you notify the government about the use of those strains in these specific products. So you have like a general framework that defines what is hemp and what can be used and what are the products that you can develop with those strains. But also in each country, you will need to fulfill certain requirements to be able to enter into the market with the cosmetics products that, for example, we are developing with Khiron.
Interesting. So it's all moving forward. Do you see any countries that are sort of lagging behind in terms of keeping up with the sort of rollout of regulations around the world that you kind of feel could be doing better?
Well, I would say that Latin America is moving fast, but we have cases, for example, like Brazil or Argentina, in which they are allowing the importation of medical products through a specific category that can be defined as compassionate use. But you could have a more robust legal framework to be able to commercialize those products in those two countries, for example. So I think that the ball is moving. Each country it's advancing at different speed. I will remark, for example, Peru is doing a great job in the definition of the regulatory framework. They passed the final decree defining the conditions to commercialize medical cannabis in February. This is a big market. It's a 32 million people market. We have also Chile, which is a market that doesn't have a complete regulatory framework, but have the different categories that you can use to be able to commercialize medical cannabis. So yeah, each country is advancing in at a different speed, but at the same time, it's clear the tendency and the trend. Like each country is every time authorizing more products and more or defining a regulatory path that is easier to navigate.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think that the biggest competitive sort of pressure will come from in terms of fulfilling sales and products in Latin America, Europe, etc.?
Well, I think that Colombia has established as probably the better country in terms of the regulatory framework. Colombia, I think that the different companies that has been established in the country are taking advantage of a very favorable regulatory framework. It's a very specific regulatory framework. You need to navigate a lot of permits and conditions, but I think that that is what is going to guarantee a great product in terms of quality and control in the medium term. So I would say that the countries that regulate this faster and with more detail are the ones that are going to establish them in the global market.
Okay. Juan Diego, that's a great initial conversation with you. I'll look forward to talking to you more in the future. Thanks very much for joining me today.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I think that it's exciting times for the regulatory environment. Everything is changing very fast, so we are up to date all the time.
Fantastic. I'll look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching us today. We'll be back tomorrow with another show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow.